When I discovered a burner phone hidden inside my wife's yoga mat bag, I knew Carol was hiding something. When I found out she was planning to run away with Tyler, our daughter's husband, everything I thought I knew about my life turned to ash. Carol wasn't just having an affair. She was planning to drain my pension and disappear with the man who had sworn to love our daughter forever. They thought they could outsmart a 64-year-old retired security systems installer. What happened next made them both wish they had never underestimated Harold Whitmore. Before I tell you exactly how I exposed them both, please subscribe to Ashen Revenge and let me know in the comments which province you're watching from. Stories like this need to be shared so others can recognize the warning signs before it's too late. My name is Harold Whitmore, and I spent 38 years installing security systems across the Greater Toronto Area. Banks, government buildings, high-end homes. I've seen every type of deception imaginable through surveillance footage, but I never imagined I'd need those skills to uncover betrayal in my own home. The moment everything changed came on a rainy Tuesday afternoon in Mississauga. Carol had started going to the gym 6 months earlier, which surprised me. In 36 years of marriage, my wife had never shown interest in fitness. She said it was for her health, that her doctor recommended cardio for her cholesterol. I believed her, because why wouldn't I? That Tuesday, I was looking for my winter gloves in the front closet when I knocked over Carol's gym bag. Everything spilled onto the floor. Yoga mat, water bottle, towel, and a small black phone I had never seen before. My hands went cold as I picked it up. We shared everything. Our main phones, our tablet, our laptop. Carol had always said she hated technology, that one phone was more than enough hassle. So why did she have a secret second phone hidden inside her yoga mat? I turned it on. No password protection. The arrogance of that still amazes me. The home screen showed only 2 apps, a messaging app and a photo gallery. My heart pounded as I opened the messages. The contact was saved simply as T. Can't wait to see you tomorrow, baby. Same time? Carol's reply made my stomach drop. Yes. Harold has his poker night. I'll tell him I'm at book club. I love you more every day. I scrolled through months of messages, declarations of love, plans to meet at hotels across the GTA, references to our future together, and when we can finally be free. Then I found the message that nearly stopped my heart. Once we have Harold's pension transferred, we can disappear to Portugal. He'll never find us. Emma will understand eventually. Emma, our daughter, the nurse at Sunnybrook Hospital, who had married Tyler Morrison 2 years ago. The same Tyler who called me Dad and helped me shovel snow every winter. The same Tyler whose initial was T. I sat on our bedroom floor for an hour, reading message after message. The affair had been going on for 18 months. They met at Emma's wedding rehearsal dinner. My wife and my son-in-law had looked at each other across the table and decided to destroy 2 families for their own pleasure. The phone buzzed in my hand. A new message from T. Tonight was incredible. Your husband has no idea what he's missing. See you Thursday, gorgeous. I put everything back exactly as I found it. Carol came home an hour later, glowing from her workout, and kissed my cheek like nothing was wrong. I smiled and asked about her day. Inside, I was already planning. They thought they were dealing with a naive old man. They had no idea they were dealing with someone who had spent 4 decades learning how to watch, wait, and catch people in their lies. The next morning, I told Carol I was driving to Hamilton to help my brother with some electrical work. Instead, I parked 3 blocks from our home and waited. At 10:15, Tyler's silver BMW pulled into our driveway. He looked around carefully before walking to our front door. Carol opened it immediately, wearing a dress I hadn't seen in years. The way she smiled at him, the way her hand lingered on his chest as she pulled him inside. I had installed security systems for suspicious spouses 100 times. Now, I understood their pain personally. I drove to Canadian Tire and bought the best wireless cameras on the market. Ironic that I helped design similar systems for corporate clients, and now I was using that knowledge in my own home. I selected cameras no bigger than shirt buttons, with crystal clear audio and 30-day storage on encrypted cloud servers. That evening, while Carol was at her actual book club, I installed cameras throughout our house. Living room, kitchen, bedroom, basement. Every angle covered. Every word would be captured. Over the following week, I recorded everything. Tyler came over 3 times while I was supposedly at work. I watched them on my phone from Tim Hortons parking lots. fighting the urge to drive home and confront them. But I needed more than evidence of an affair. I needed to understand the full scope of their betrayal. On the fourth recording, I got what I needed. "The lawyer says everything is ready," Carol said, pouring wine for Tyler in my kitchen. "Once Harold signs the new beneficiary forms, we're set." "And he doesn't suspect anything?" Carol laughed, the same laugh that had charmed me at a dance in 1987. "Harold? He's completely clueless. Thinks I've just discovered a love for yoga. The man hasn't questioned anything in 30 years. What about Emma? She'll be devastated, obviously. But she's young. She'll recover. Find someone else." Carol shrugged, like she was discussing returning a sweater. "Besides, once we're in Portugal, it won't matter what any of them think." Tyler pulled out his phone. "I found the perfect villa, ocean view, private beach. We can live like royalty on Harold's pension and my other investments." "Other investments?" Tyler smirked. "Let's just say you're not the only woman who appreciates my particular skills, Carol. But you're the one I love. The others are just business." My blood ran cold. Tyler wasn't just cheating with my wife. He was running an operation. I spent the next week investigating Tyler Morrison. What I discovered made me physically ill. I followed him from our house to a condo in Oakville. A woman in her late 50s, elegant and wealthy-looking, greeted him at the door with the same intimate familiarity Carol showed. He stayed for 2 hours. From Oakville, Tyler drove to Burlington. Another woman, this one perhaps 65, practically pulled him inside her mansion on the lake. Another 2 hours, then to a townhouse in Milton. A third woman, early 60s, silver hair, expensive jewelry visible even from my car. She handed Tyler an envelope that looked thick with cash before he left. By the end of the week, I had documented Tyler visiting 7 different women across the GTA. All were between 55 and 70. All lived alone or had frequently absent husbands. All seemed completely infatuated with the charming 34-year-old fitness trainer who made them feel young again. Tyler Morrison wasn't just a cheater. He was a professional predator targeting vulnerable older women. I made some calls to old contacts in the security industry. A friend who now worked fraud investigation for a major bank ran Tyler's name through some databases. The results were damning. Tyler Morrison had 3 previous identities. In Vancouver, he had been Trevor Mitchell. In Calgary, Tyler Matthews. In Winnipeg, Thomas Morrison. Each identity was connected to elderly women who had mysteriously lost significant savings. No criminal charges had ever stuck because the women were too embarrassed to testify. My son-in-law was a serial con artist, and my wife was his latest, biggest target. But Carol was different from his other victims. Carol had access to my government pension worth over $400,000. Carol was married to someone whose life insurance policy was worth $500,000. Carol had already mentioned in their messages about when Harold is gone. I wasn't just being cheated on. I was potentially being set up for something far worse. I called Emma that evening, keeping my voice casual. "Hey, sweetheart. Just checking in. How's Tyler doing with the business?" "Oh, Dad. He's so busy. Personal training is really taking off. He's got clients all over the GTA now." "That's wonderful. He's such a hard worker." "He really is. I'm so lucky to have found him." My heart broke for my daughter. The man she loved, the man she had built her life around, was a professional predator, and soon she would learn the truth in the most devastating way possible. But I needed to be strategic. Simply confronting Tyler would let him slither away to another city and another identity. Simply showing Emma the evidence would destroy her, but wouldn't bring justice. I needed a plan that would expose Tyler completely, protect his other victims, and ensure he faced real consequences. After a week of planning, I knew exactly what to do. Our 35th wedding anniversary was approaching. Carol had been dropping hints about wanting a big party. The irony was almost too perfect. She wanted to celebrate our marriage while planning to steal everything I had worked for and run away with our son-in-law. I gave her exactly what she wanted. "Carol, I've been thinking. Let's throw a proper anniversary party. Invite everyone. Family, neighbors, friends. I want to celebrate us." Her eyes lit up with something I now recognized as calculation. "Really, Harold? That's so sweet. We've had 35 good years. I want everyone to know how much I appreciate you." "I'd love that." I rented the community center in Port Credit for the second Saturday of October. I told Carol I wanted it to be a surprise for our friends and family, that I would handle all the arrangements. She was thrilled, probably already calculating how to act surprised and grateful in front of witnesses before disappearing with Tyler and my money. I spent the next 3 weeks preparing. Not for a celebration, but for an exposure. First, I contacted every woman I had identified as Tyler's victim. I approached each one carefully, identifying myself as someone investigating Tyler for fraud. The conversations were heartbreaking. Margaret Chen in Oakville had given Tyler $45,000 for business investments that didn't exist. Helen Blackwood in Burlington had added him to her will for $60,000. Patricia Evans in Milton had been paying his rent for a year. Sandra Williams in Etobicoke had co-signed a loan he defaulted on. The total damages exceeded $200,000 across 7 women, not counting whatever he planned to take from Carol and me. Each woman agreed to attend what I described as an intervention at my anniversary party. They wanted justice, they wanted answers, and they wanted to see Tyler Morrison face consequences for once in his predatory life. Second, I prepared the technical aspects. I'm not a young man, but I know surveillance systems better than anyone in the province. I installed cameras at the community center. I set up a projection system connected to my cloud storage. I programmed everything to activate at precisely the right moment. Third, I created a highlight reel, the most damning footage from my home cameras. Tyler and Carol discussing their plans to steal my pension. Carol laughing about how clueless I was. Tyler bragging about his other investments. Every betrayal, every cruel word, captured in high definition with perfect audio. Finally, I contacted Detective Sarah Chen at York Regional Police. I'd installed systems at their headquarters years ago and maintained some professional connections. I explained what I had discovered about Tyler's pattern of fraud across multiple provinces. She was very interested. The night before the party, I couldn't sleep. Carol lay beside me, peaceful and oblivious, probably dreaming of Portuguese beaches. I wondered how I had missed the signs for so long, but predators like Tyler are experts at manipulation. Carol wasn't evil. She was lonely, vulnerable, and targeted by a professional who knew exactly how to exploit those weaknesses. That didn't excuse what she had done, but it helped me understand it. The anniversary party started at 6 p.m. Carol had outdone herself with a new dress and perfect makeup. Tyler and Emma arrived together, Tyler playing the devoted son-in-law perfectly. He shook my hand firmly, looked me in the eye, and said, "Happy anniversary, Dad. You and Carol are relationship goals." The audacity was almost admirable. About 80 people filled the community center, our neighbors from Mississauga, friends from Carol's book club, my former colleagues from the security industry, Emma's friends from the hospital, and scattered throughout the crowd, 7 women Tyler had defrauded. Watching him with expressions he was too arrogant to notice. I gave a short speech about marriage and commitment, watching Carol smile graciously, while Tyler stood with his arm around Emma. The performance was Oscar-worthy on everyone's part. At 7:30, I announced we would be showing a slideshow of memories from our 35 years together. Everyone gathered around as I dimmed the lights and started the projector. The first few slides were genuine. Our wedding in 1989, Emma as a baby, family vacations to Banff and Nova Scotia. The crowd laughed and reminisced. Then the screen went black for a moment. "I have a few more recent memories to share," I said, my voice steady. "These are from the past month." The footage began. Tyler and Carol in my living room, kissing passionately on my couch. The audio crystal clear. "I can't wait until we're together forever," Carol moaned. "I hate pretending with Harold." The crowd went silent. Emma's face went white. Tyler's confident smile vanished. The next clip showed them in my kitchen, discussing the pension theft. Once Harold signs the papers, "We're set," Carol said on screen. Then Tyler's voice, boasting about his other investments. Then footage I had obtained from traffic cameras and ATM security systems, showing Tyler entering the homes of his other victims. Then video testimonials from Margaret, Helen, Patricia, and Sandra, each describing how Tyler had charmed them, taken their money, and disappeared when they started asking questions. The entire presentation took 8 minutes. By the end, Carol was crying hysterically. Tyler was edging toward the exit, and Emma was standing frozen, unable to comprehend what she was seeing. I clicked off the projector and turned on the lights. "Tyler Morrison is not who he claims to be," I announced to the stunned crowd. His real name is Trevor Mitchell, or Tyler Matthews, or Thomas Morrison, depending on which province he's operating in. He has defrauded at least 7 women in this room alone for over $200,000. And he was planning to steal my pension and run away with my wife to Portugal. Tyler bolted for the door. He didn't get far. Detective Sarah Chen and 2 uniformed officers were waiting outside. I had timed everything perfectly. "Tyler Morrison?" Detective Chen said, blocking his path. "You're under arrest for fraud, theft, and conspiracy across multiple jurisdictions. You have the right to retain and instruct counsel without delay." The next hour was chaos in the best possible way. Tyler was handcuffed and led to a police cruiser in front of everyone who had ever believed his lies. Carol was also arrested for conspiracy to commit fraud. The 7 victim women surrounded Detective Chen, eager to provide statements. My former colleagues from the security industry helped coordinate with police to secure all the evidence. And Emma, my poor daughter, she found me sitting alone outside the community center, watching the police lights fade into the distance. "Dad," her voice cracked. "How long have you known?" "About a month. Why didn't you tell me?" I turned to look at her, this beautiful woman I had raised, whose heart had just been shattered, because I needed to make sure he couldn't hurt anyone else ever again. A quiet divorce would have let him disappear and find new victims. This way, he faces real consequences. I feel so stupid. "You're not stupid, sweetheart. You're a good person who loved someone. Tyler was a professional at making people trust him. Even your mother fell for it." Emma sat beside me, tears streaming down her face. "What happens now? Now we heal. Tyler goes to prison. Your mother faces her own consequences. And you and I figure out how to rebuild." She leaned her head on my shoulder, just like she used to when she was a little girl. "I'm glad you caught him, Dad. I'm glad someone finally stopped him. That's what fathers are for, sweetheart. Protecting their families. Even when the threat comes from inside." The legal aftermath took months to sort out. Tyler Morrison, born Trevor Mitchell in Regina, Saskatchewan, was charged with 23 counts of fraud across 4 provinces. His victims came forward from Vancouver, Calgary, Winnipeg, and across the GTA. The total documented theft exceeded $600,000 over a decade of operations. Detective Chen called him one of the most methodical romance fraudsters we've ever prosecuted. He had targeted exclusively older women, usually widowed or in unhappy marriages, always with significant assets. He was a chameleon who changed identities, cities, and hairstyles every few years to stay ahead of authorities. Tyler pleaded guilty to avoid a lengthy trial and was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. Given his pattern and the number of victims, the judge made an example of him. Carol was charged as an accessory, but cooperated fully with prosecutors. She received a suspended sentence and 2 years probation in exchange for testimony against Tyler. Our divorce was finalized 3 months later. Given the circumstances, I kept everything. The house, my pension, my investments. Carol moved in with her sister in Kingston and hasn't contacted me since. I don't hate my ex-wife. I pity her. She was manipulated by a professional who spent his life learning to exploit lonely people. That doesn't excuse her choices, but it helps me avoid becoming consumed by bitterness. The 7 victim women recovered some of their money through Tyler's asset seizure, though not all of it. Margaret Chen and I became friends through the process. She started a support group for romance fraud survivors that now helps dozens of people across Ontario. Emma moved back home with me for 6 months while she processed everything. Watching her heal was difficult but ultimately beautiful. She threw herself into her nursing work, earning a promotion to charge nurse at Sunnybrook. She started volunteering with the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre, speaking to seniors about recognizing romance scams. "If what happened to us helps even one other family," she told me, "then something good came from all this pain." A year after the anniversary party, Emma and I sat on my back deck watching the sun set over Lake Ontario. Our Saturday dinners had become a tradition, a way to maintain the bond we had forged through trauma. "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Anything, sweetheart." "Do you regret how you exposed them at the party in front of everyone?" I considered the question carefully. "I regret that you had to see it. I regret that your marriage ended so publicly. But Tyler had been getting away with hurting people for over a decade. Quiet justice would have let him slip away again. Public exposure ensured he couldn't hide anymore." Emma nodded slowly. The women he hurt needed to see him face consequences. I understand that now. Some justice comes from courts. Some comes from community. Tyler needed both. Mom called me yesterday. I kept my expression neutral. Oh? She wanted to apologize. Again, what did you say? I told her I'm not ready yet. Maybe someday. Emma paused. Do you think you'll ever forgive her? Forgiveness isn't about letting someone off the hook, sweetheart. It's about refusing to let bitterness poison your own life. I'm working on it. Some days are easier than others. I'm proud of you, Dad. For what? For being stronger than anyone gave you credit for. Mom and Tyler both underestimated you. They thought you were just a retired old man who would never notice what was happening right under his nose. I smiled. That's the thing about spending 38 years in security. You learn that the quiet observers are usually the most dangerous ones, the people who watch and wait and plan. Tyler was loud and charming and obvious. I was patient and methodical and invisible. I was the hunter. They were the targets. Emma laughed for the first time in months. That should be on a t-shirt. Maybe I'll add it to the memoir. You're writing a memoir? No. But it sounds good, doesn't it? We sat together as the last light faded over the lake. The pain wasn't gone. It probably never would be completely. But we had survived. We were rebuilding, and we had each other. 18 months after the party, I received a letter forwarded through the police victim services. It was from a woman named Dorothy in Saskatoon. She had seen coverage of Tyler's conviction and wanted to thank me. My sister Evelyn was one of his victims in Calgary, she wrote. She lost $80,000 to Trevor Mitchell before he disappeared. She was too ashamed to report it and carried that shame until she passed away last year. When I saw that someone finally caught him, finally made him face justice, I cried for hours. Not from sadness, but from relief. You gave closure to so many families who thought they would never see accountability. Thank you for being brave enough to expose him. I keep that letter in my desk drawer. On difficult days, I read it to remind myself why I did what I did. People ask me sometimes what advice I would give to others in similar situations. I've thought about this a lot, and here's what I've learned. First, trust your instincts. When something feels wrong in a relationship, it usually is. Carol's sudden interest in fitness, her new phone habits, the way she avoided eye contact. I noticed all of it, but talked myself out of suspicion because I wanted to believe my marriage was solid. If I had investigated sooner, I might have uncovered the plot before it progressed so far. Second, document everything. Suspicion without evidence is just paranoia. Evidence without documentation disappears. The recordings I made, the photographs I took, the financial records I gathered, all of it was essential for building a case that prosecutors could actually use. Emotion drives the discovery, but evidence drives the justice. Third, think beyond yourself. My first impulse was confrontation. I wanted to burst into my living room and scream at Carol and Tyler until they felt a fraction of my pain. But that would only have satisfied my immediate anger. By waiting and investigating, I discovered that Tyler had hurt many other people who deserved justice too. The best revenge isn't about personal satisfaction. It's about making sure the predator can never hurt anyone else. Fourth, protect your family. Emma was devastated by what I revealed, and I will always carry some guilt about that. But she was also freed from a man who would have eventually betrayed her too. Tyler had a pattern. He used women until they were no longer useful, then moved on. By exposing him when I did, I prevented him from draining Emma's finances and destroying her credit like he had done to victims before her. Fifth, be patient. I spent over a month planning before I acted. Every day of that month was agony. Every time Carol kissed me goodbye, every time Tyler called me Dad, I wanted to explode. But patience allowed me to build an unassailable case. Patience allowed me to coordinate with police and victims. Patience transformed my personal tragedy into community justice. Finally, remember that healing is not linear. Some days I feel strong and grateful for how everything turned out. Other days I wake up at 3 a.m, haunted by memories of Carol's laugh when she called me clueless. Trauma doesn't disappear just because justice was served. But knowing I did the right thing makes the difficult days more bearable. Last month, I was interviewed by a reporter doing a story on romance fraud for the Toronto Star. She asked me if I had any regrets about how public I made the exposure. I told her this. Tyler Morrison hurt at least 15 women across 4 provinces over more than a decade. He stole money. He manipulated emotions. He destroyed trust. He operated in darkness, using shame and embarrassment to keep his victims silent. The only thing that stops predators like him is light, public exposure, community awareness, accountability that everyone can see. She asked if I worried about being seen as vindictive. Maybe some people see it that way, I said. But every woman in that community center who had been defrauded by Tyler told me the same thing. They finally felt seen. They finally felt believed. They finally got to watch their abuser face consequences. If vindictiveness is the price of that healing, I'll accept the label. The article ran the following Sunday. My phone rang constantly for a week afterward. Other fraud victims wanting to share their stories. Security professionals asking for consultation. Seniors, groups requesting speakers for fraud awareness events. Something I thought would end my life had turned into a new purpose. Emma got engaged last spring to a paramedic she met through work. His name is David, and he's genuine in a way that Tyler never was. I watched him carefully for the first few months, my surveillance instincts permanently heightened. But David passed every test. He loves my daughter honestly and treats her with respect. Their wedding is next June. I'll walk Emma down the aisle and give a speech about love and trust and resilience, about how families can break and heal and become stronger through the breaking. I won't mention Tyler or Carol by name, but everyone who knows our story will understand the subtext. Some families shatter when tested by betrayal. Others forge themselves into something unbreakable. Emma and I chose to be unbreakable. If you've watched this far, you might be wondering what I hope you take away from my story. It's simple. Pay attention. Trust your instincts. Document what you find. Build your case carefully. Think about who else might be hurt. And when the time is right, don't be afraid to drag the truth into the light. Predators like Tyler Morrison count on silence. They count on shame keeping victims quiet and isolated. The most powerful thing you can do is refuse to be silent. Refuse to be ashamed. Refuse to let them operate in darkness. I was a retired security systems installer who thought his biggest challenges were behind him. I discovered that my wife and son-in-law were planning to steal everything I had worked for. I could have crumbled. I could have raged uselessly. Instead, I used the skills I spent my career developing, and I protected not just myself, but every person Tyler had ever hurt. That's not revenge. That's justice. And there's a difference. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe to Ashen Revenge for more true stories of betrayal and accountability. Share your thoughts in the comments about how you would have handled a similar situation. And remember, the people who seem most harmless are often paying the closest attention. Thanks for listening, Canada. Stay vigilant, and never underestimate a patient old man.